Good morning, this is Tanya with Peddler's Den, and I'm going to show you a really quick and easy Christmas card. This technique features stipple brushes. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp the cabin in black. Now this one is going to go off the edge of the paper significantly, and that's okay. Today I am working on uncoated cardstock. The finished product would have a little more pop if you were working on our semi-gloss, but this is the version that we did at our show so that people would have faster dry time. So you can see we're letting a lot of this stamp go off the edge of the paper. Now when you're working with these bigger stamps, I like to walk my finger around to try to make sure that there are no areas that don't get enough pressure. And there we have it. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this tall foreground tree in. Remember, anytime something is close to you, it appears larger. So this one is stamped larger while these others are farther away and they're stamped smaller. When I ink my stamps, I like to look at them critically to see if the ink is uniform. This is the first time this morning I've used this one, so I need to make sure that it's accepting the ink properly. I'm going to flip this around, and let's see, I want it to be right out on the edge here, so let's try that. And there you have it. Now to do these little ones, I take a torn paper towel and I kind of go at an angle here because I want that to look like it's a snowbank. I'm using the same stamp I did a moment ago. But of course we're going to stamp it smaller, shorter. And I want another one beside it. And there we have it. We have kind of our snowy ridge with our trees. Now we're going to go ahead, now we're going to put that in last. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put our mask on. And I wanted a really big moon on this one. And I wanted it to be positioned so that it looks like it was illuminating this bank here. Now we're using stipple brushes, and we're using our Yorktown blue ink, our midnight blue ink, and our eggplant. But we're starting with our Yorktown. I'm going to gently swirl this around on the pad to pick up ink, and I am more or less going to cover the entire card with the Yorktown blue. And you'll see me going back to the pad a lot. There's no reason to fight with a dry ink on your brush. Now if this was coated cardstock, I would tap and swirl, because with the coated cardstock your ink stays on top of the sheet. It dries by evaporation instead of absorption. But because I'm working on uncoated cardstock, I don't do as much swirling. I can still swirl a little bit, and I will swirl more once we get a little more of ink buildup, a little more ink saturation. But that doesn't really work as well on the uncoated cardstock as it does the coated. So we're getting this base layer down. Now, I want to keep this relatively light, and I also want it to be darker over here where it's farther away from the moon, okay? But we do want some tone down here. Now, if you want to, you can lay your paper towel back across here and build up the ink saturation where that would be. And you'll see that that helps differentiate here. Now, after the Yorktown Blue, I'm going to close that up, set it aside, and I'm going to go to my eggplant. I have a different brush for each ink color. Now, I wanted a little more eggplant concentrated here, so I'm going to put some eggplant here. I'm not sure, sometimes my camera picks up the subtleties in the color pretty good, and other times not so much. I use the eggplant throughout the entire scene, but there are areas where I concentrated it a little bit more. If you can see this, it's concentrated here, a little bit here, but it is blended all around. My goal when I started with the eggplant was that, you know, when you have a really, really black night, a lot of times it's almost a purple black. And the blue blends with the eggplant so nice. Now I wonder if you can see some of these subtleties. I hope so. Now we're going to build up some more intensity, so I'm going to put the eggplant aside, and I'm going to pull out our Midnight Blue. And we're going to start building up some of the darker value and a little more ink saturation. And again, I want that to be more along the edges because that would be farther away from the moon. Now I may try to swirl a little bit here, and it is smoothing the ink a little bit and blending it a little bit, but you know, when you're working on uncoated cardstock, you just don't get the same kind of ink movement that you do when you're on coated cardstock. Let's see, now my concept was, even though this is slanted away from the moon, this is not going to be as dark as this side of the cabin. So I'm going to flip this around a little bit, And we're going to work down here, which would be in a deeper shadow. So we're getting some pretty good gradation here. I like to have a little bit of a glow from the moon. If that is too much of a glow for you, you can always go back and add some more Yorktown blue. I like to bring a little more contrast in, so I'm going to now take a little bit of black, and I'm going to add some black, especially on the outer perimeters where it would be the darkest shadows. Can you see it building up? And I think maybe I do need just a hint more of the Yorktown blue, so I'm going to come back with my Yorktown. And I'm going to add some more, especially on this side of the moon. And then, of course, we have the reveal. There's our pretty moon. And we have to add Santa. So we're going to ink up Santa and the reindeers. I'm going to look to make sure he's inked properly. And then I like to make sure that Santa is in front of the moon. Press firmly without rocking. And there you have it. And then, of course, the only thing left to do is to mount it and mat it. And there you have a fast, easy holiday card. So this is Tanya with Peddler's Den. Thank you for joining me today. Happy holidays.